Welcome back, Ian. How you doing, sir?
Great, Al. Good to see you again.
Hey, thanks for sharing some time with me. We're here at TALREOS in beautiful Lincoln Hall, and you actually were one of the inspirations, one of the people who actually brought TALREOS to life. So if you would, introduce yourself.
Yeah, happy to. Ian O'Keefe. I'm at Amazon, heading up talent science. I've been at JP Morgan, Google, and before that Sears, and it was here in the Chicago area while with Sears working with the esteemed Dean Carter, who we saw and heard from yesterday, that we struck up this conference, which is a really awesome opportunity for senior people in people analytics space to come together, compare notes, listen, learn.
It's a wonderful event, and to your point, people who are experienced in the space yet come with a learning mindset, a growth mindset to figure out, hey, we're always have room to grow and improve. And one of the things that you shared yesterday was how we do that as a discipline. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I talked yesterday about how we productize people analytics, which means a couple different things. In one vein, it means how we build durable, scalable, repeatable data products, dashboards, reports that can be available to the right people in the org at the right time, whether it's on the hiring side, the talent side, DEI, take your pick. Yesterday, though, my focus was really on how we embed predictions, recommendations, nudges, anomalies in software applications that run HR, that managers use every day to hire, promote, retain, reward, move individuals around the organization, and really how we go direct to managers with that type of data intelligence in concert with HR, to have HR also play the role in activating talent strategies for managers in the line, but how we really go direct to the customer, if you will.
If I understand you correctly, are you talking about not just one like people analytics solution being the end all, actually taking those insights and distributing through potentially different platforms? Is that right?
It's a portfolio, yeah. So I think depending on the tech stack and the starting points of any given org, you may be in a situation where you have in-house applications and products that are run by in-house software teams. Mm-hmm. You may have a mix of in-house build and third-party bought. You might be more on the buy side. But I think the point is that increasingly we're seeing analytics having a really powerful impact when it's in front of the right person, in the right moment, in the flow of work. And I think that when we talk about scale and repeatability and durability, that products, software applications, the actual interfaces that people are in when they're making workforce-related decisions is where we can have really relevant, timely influence to get a better outcome.
If this is done, if this productization, I mumbled that pretty well, didn't I? Productization mindset actually takes hold, the case will be where we're doing it at speed,
yes,
we're doing it at scale, yes, and we're doing it in a sustainable way. And I'll add something too, which frankly, I'll throw in another S, to a specific audience at a specific time,
yes,
where it actually is going to be actionable. And the point I want to make, and it's going to land on a question, is that if we do that, then it's not going to be dependent on the individual or team that's in place at that point in time, going back to that sustainability notion, because you and I have been in the discipline for a number of years. You've seen, okay, so-and-so left, and the capability just went with them.
Right.
So this would be something that is in fact sustainable. So the question I want to land with is, as we move forward as a discipline, how would you coach CHROs, heads of talent, executives on the ideal system or team or capability that needs to be built to create this sustainable, scalable, fast system?
Yeah, so two parts, I guess, to the answer. Part one would be boring but important. Thinking about, I think we hear a lot of anecdotes about orgs that have their process maps and system architecture and data logic scattered amongst the tribe, tribal knowledge. And so left, so we don't know how X or Y or Z works. SOPs, writing it down, having a standard rubric for how gather information 1, 2, 3, 4 systems and create a data artifact that's valuable for the org to use. Increasingly, it's, I think, no longer acceptable to have your first response be rooted in tribal knowledge. I think that the technology, the costs have come obviously way down, your options are many, and I think it does take some intentionality to do that, but that's a forehead slapping obvious kind of first part to your answer. When it comes to the capabilities and skills, like I've always been a big believer in building analytic teams that are built around 4 or 5 disciplines. Data engineering, unsung heroes of people analytics, where source system information is coming from, how you land it, how you organize it, how you create schemas with security and permissions that are ready for pillar 2 analytics to use. Your business intelligence engineers, your dashboard developers, your data scientists that can cut quick analyses and give rapid insights out to the org in self-service formats that HR can use, that line leaders can use. Pillar 3 is your applied science or applied data science, where you're building models to predict an outcome of interest and then using that as a trigger, so to speak, to prompt perhaps recommendations, inspections in interfaces that people use every day. And then the 4th, research science. Think your IO psychs, listening, qualitative analytics, talking to the human beings in the roles, in the orgs, in the teams of interest to make sure that anecdotes line up with data. When those two don't meet, usually something's not quite right. And usually if you're going away as a people analytics org and building out systems and a machinery, so to speak, if you haven't spoken to customers who will use it, that doesn't really pass the sniff test.
Sure.
So there's other variations on that, but I think those 4 are hugely important. Behavioral economics has taken on new meaning with causal evaluation, experimental design, depending on the maturity of the org. I think that's valuable as well. But I think any analytics org worth its weight in salt has some depth in those areas, and you can focus those in combination on problems of varying complexity.
Thank you for sharing, and I think you beautifully articulated what needs to happen. And my follow-on question as we start to wrap is, to what extent do you believe much of that work is going to be outsourced? Keeping in mind that the liability, particularly around bias and the regulations that are either in place or coming, liability lies with the vendors, the software vendors, but also those who are using that software, for example, meaning enterprises. So I foresee at least some of this going to the tech vendors, potentially consultancies, but there arguably needs to be certain level of capability within an organization that remains. Would you align with that thinking, or do you want to add any color or push back on anything different?
I'd agree with you. Do not think that the build by argument should be settled or made on like risk diminishment by outsourcing it, because you're not diminishing your risk, and the laws and regs are always slower to catch up to the technical capability that's prompting that state, countrywide inspection of like how we need to perhaps regulate this. New York, their law has been in place. California, obviously. The EU just passed a sweeping law that you spoke with Ben not long ago. Ben waivers. I think that you need to, if you're outsourcing a front-end candidate assessment perhaps system, or something on the talent side or something on the comp side, at a minimum, those vendors will not be able to bring you the value that they would otherwise pitch if you don't have someone in-house that understands and speaks the language of science and can productively poke on their capabilities, their predictions, have a meaningful data strategy discussion. I think a lot of times there's sparkle and shine that comes with a third-party provider, and the demos look great, and you really have to poke under the hood on what's the data strategy and the data contract that we can strike if an in-house team has desire to take that data and join it with other data that, no, we will not do it the other way around. So I think you have to have a really firm mental model on what the value of the data is for the organization, and not just the value of a single third-party contract for a particular problem.
I so celebrate. I got a big smile as you're saying. I don't know if you noticed, because I couldn't agree more, number one, because increasingly, not only do we talk about an ecosystem of talent throughout work tech, HR tech, but also within the people analytics, workforce planning, talent intelligence discipline in and of itself. There's a, call it smaller ecosystem of technologies that are, if they're not thought of cohesively, then to your point, you're missing the boat, missing opportunity, and it requires a data strategy. So thank you for calling that out.
Yeah.
As we move forward over the next year, what excites you, what concerns you?
Yeah, I think we've heard here at TALREOS some very meaningful conversation on remote hybrid work, return to office, the patterns that will play out with that. I think every people analytics team that I think we've talked to has some involvement in that, and definitely has opinions on that. That's a huge theme. I think belonging, inclusion, equity is really important in that conversation, but in general, as being omnipresent throughout different domains of HR where you might conduct analytics, not just on the ways of working side, but on any side. It's always been there within compensation, on the hiring side, the more that you're putting perhaps business intelligence and machine learning to inform decisions that are employment material, you need to make sure that does not have adverse impact. We've been saying that for years, but I think that takes on new meaning when the option set to buy or build is becoming increasingly available and wide. So I think that's hugely important. And I obviously have a bias towards bringing insight to the right people at the right time in a sort of a disintermediated type of way. And I think that productization, product development, design, where science, tech, product meet up with software engineering and governance and privacy to create a better employee experience is the name of the game. And that can take on different shapes and sizes depending on the org that you're in and the drivers that motivate that organization. But I think that's a really exciting conversation that we're just scratching the surface on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. How can people learn more about you and what you're up to?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the best.
That's the way. Ian, again, thanks for being your awesome self, Sharon, and look forward to talking again soon.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you all for joining us. Be well.
Thank you.